Welcome back to Tactical Foul, you guys. I am here with my very good friend Tiago. Tiago, how you doing, my boy?
I don't know. One, let me be honest, right? Let me be honest with everybody. If I sound weird, I am
Ah,
sick.
Jesus.
I have 101-degree fever. I am riding on cough syrup so that we can put this episode out. That's why we missed the previous episode. I wanted to do a whole 90 minutes of just ripping on Real Madrid. And we might do that in the summer and all of those things. But I'm excited to be talking about the Champions League Final Four because
Me
there's
too,
a lot
man.
of
Me
good
too.
things.
Yeah, man. Especially if you're a Barcelona fan. Not so much if you're a Real Madrid fan. Obviously, we kind of you were sick, so we missed that whole segment with Arsenal versus Real Madrid. By the way, I ordered that Arsenal jersey.
Good for
It's
you.
coming soon, and I got the black one.
Okay.
So expect to see that in the next
I
podcast, you guys.
feel that's such a
I'm a
cop out
man of
getting the
my
black
word.
one.
I
Should have
start
got the
what?
red one. It's more like
No,
you got if you're gonna
no.
get your first jersey for the team that you support.
Here's the
Deep
thing.
down, you gotta get the red one.
I'm a new Arsenal fan. Okay? I'm a new Arsenal fan. Yes, in the past I've talked about Arsenal. I feel like right now I'm a new Arsenal fan. I have to get the away until I feel those colors embroidered in my skin like I do with Barcelona. But I decided I'm gonna get the away. It looks nice. I liked it. I bought it. It's a great jersey. I'm just waiting around for it to come because it's ordered all the way from the UK. But expect to see it in the next podcast, you guys. But anyways, we missed the mark with the whole Arsenal Real Madrid thing because there was a lot going on. I have school. He was sick. Anyway,
Guys, it's been
tell
5
me,
days of
tell
me
tell
having
tell me.
a 101-degree fever today.
Man,
I'm
I'm sorry.
finally
That
under
sucks.
100. It's insane.
Yeah,
And I've
yeah.
still had to take care of my two boys. But
Jeez, man. You're
I
a
think we
champ.
have to talk about this Final Four because
Yeah.
the two semifinal matches in the Champions League, if you're a neutral, if you're not a fan of any team, if you just like the sport, if you're just a football fan, and you're coming into this Champions League, like if this is your first Champions League, the way that the semifinal has been set up, each side, is absolutely phenomenal because on both sides of the bracket, you're getting such a duality of personalities from both teams.
Yeah, man. It's very contrasting styles of football, which
And
is
it's
what
contrasting
we were just talking about earlier.
philosophies. It's
Yeah.
contrasting
Yeah. A
ideologies.
little bit of everything.
If we look on, and
A
we'll
little bit
talk
of
about them
everything.
second, the
Yeah.
Barcelona versus
Yeah.
Inter match.
Yeah.
Of
Of course.
I want to
I
talk about
definitely want to
Arsenal.
get
I want to talk
into
about PSG, and I want to talk
I
about
want to talk about them too.
everything.
I
Right?
definitely do. Because Arsenal is such a different team than PSG.
It's the
But
battle of defense versus offense.
yeah. It's such a perfect matchup. It seems like for
How
Arsenal.
does a team that is so defensively sound, like Arsenal, because that's what they are, they're one of the better defensive teams in Europe. How do they stop one of the best attacking teams in Europe, especially with how structured Arsenal is? Everyone's got to be in their positions, and everybody knows their job, and everybody knows their role. Arteta following that Pep Guardiola, train of thought. Of
Well, here's
positional
where I
play.
wanted to kind of talk about that because I do feel like he's not so much stepping away. He still has the fundamentals of what, Guardiola instilled in him at his time in Man City. But I think he adopted he adopted a lot of a different style in the sense of the set pieces. And he hired that set piece coach that's really been a big difference for Arsenal
Not this
compared to
year.
past seasons.
Not this year. And I think that
Since last year, they've been
for
playing.
years. For years, the set piece coach has been such a big deal and what they're doing. But I think that is a byproduct of the defenders that you like. If you have Gabriel, who is so good in the air, such a massive.
I think just in
aerial
general,
threat.
they've got a lot of players that are good in the air.
No,
that
but
are
like
very
set pieces
physical.
are designed to go to Gabriel. But that's what I'm saying. Imagine what you can do if you're a coach coming into a team that already has one of the best aerial defenders in the game. And on top of that, you go and add a guy like William Saliba, who's also really good in the air. And you go and you add other guys that are dangerous in the box, in the air. Like, they built it around, but that's the thing. This year, they haven't been scoring goals from set pieces. It hasn't been what's been winning them games. And it's really weird when you're talking about
I mean,
Arsenal
it
because,
won
like,
them the first
defensively,
match
they're still
against
so
Madrid,
good.
though. I mean, so we do like.
But no,
I wouldn't
here's-
say I wouldn't
that
go as
doesn't
far as
count.
to say that it's not winning them games.
No, but that doesn't count.
Why
Because
not?
they hadn't scored. That's not the set pieces that are winning them games. Declan
Right, okay.
Rice, they hadn't scored a free kick goal before that game since 2020. And it had been 5 years since they had scored a free kick goal. Those aren't the set pieces that were winning them games. That's not what's doing it. Now, if Declan Rice can pull that out of the bag, because now you have to respect it.
Well, but I think
you have
Declan
to
Rice.
think about
But
it.
I think listen, I think Declan Rice is in such a prime moment right now, and I think he's going to be such a crucial part of just this game in general. And I think that Arsenal, even though I and I'm at a crossroads here because I love both coaches very much, and I think that Luis Enrique obviously has, to me, playing some of the best football I've seen in Europe this season. And I do feel like PSG going stronger to this game. But I think if there's one team that can really make it difficult for PSG, I think it's Arsenal. And I think a lot of what is going to happen, it's going to be very similar to the Aston Villa game, in my opinion. Not because Arsenal play close to Villa, but I think that it's because of the fact that Premier League, like when we look at a side like PSG that play in Ligue 1, it's not a very physical league. It's not a very physical league, and the Premier League is different. Premier League is a very physical league. So I think that that's why we're going to see a game similar to what PSG did in the second leg with Villa, where they struggled. And even though they're going to be scoring goals, I think Arsenal are going to be able to have the chance to kind of stop them from scoring as many, but at the same time be able to utilize their how do I explain this? Like their speed and the tactics that Arteta, I think, has currently, will be able to, kind of go toe to toe with PSG, in my opinion, from what I've seen in Arsenal.
I don't agree because I don't think tactically Arsenal are bringing as much as Villa are. I think Villa, and this is mainly because of injuries.
I disagree.
I don't think that Arsenal are coming in with any tactical
I think
Aston
that you're
Villa
really undermining the
weren't hurt. They
defensive
brought
work
their
that
A-game.
Arsenal have done this season. And I mean, they have been one of the best defensive teams in Europe this season.
Yeah, but they haven't been one of the best offensive teams in Europe. And
I get it.
I get goals to
I
win
get that,
games.
but
the other problem is,
listen, when
that
they need to
PSG are
score,
one of
they
the best
score.
offensive teams.
They're not this team that's gonna. It's kind of like Inter in the sense of like they're not a team that's gonna score a bunch of goals. But guess what? They're a team that are gonna prevent you from scoring and score when they need to.
But this is where I think that this game is going to be so interesting. I don't think that's true. I don't think that what you just said about Arsenal is true, and I think that we can see that from the Crystal Palace game.
And I think we could see that. I think we
can
could
see
see
it
what
from
I'm
them in the
saying.
Premier League.
I
We've
think what
seen
I'm
it over the
saying.
last couple
I
of
think what I'm
months from them.
saying stays true in the Real Madrid game, because
In the Real Madrid
even
game-
in the second leg, when they were trying to do was defend, they went out
No,
and
they
they
weren't trying
scored
to
the goal
defend.
when they needed it. Okay, well, either way, they went out and they scored the goals when they needed it, right? And they were still and still, man, like to prevent a team like Real Madrid, regardless of how well they're doing or bad they're doing, to prevent a team with a front line of Rodrigo, Mbappe, and Vinicius Jr. and barely concede even any shots it holds a lot of merit, man. I feel like
I don't think it does. Not against this Real Madrid team. Not against the way that Carlo is currently coaching this team, because like Getafe did the same thing to us on the weekend. Bilbao did the same thing to us in midweek. Like teams are
Bilbao.
able to
You guys
contain
just
us.
played Bilbao and Bilbao couldn't even score one goal on you guys.
No, yeah, but what I'm
And
saying
you guys
is
scored one.
we scored one goal against Bilbao. We scored one goal against Getafe, and Getafe is a very physical team and a very I don't think that holds weight because Real Madrid are not what they should be. I'm not going to sit here and try to hype up my team. No, they are not playing well this year. That's just the reality of it. They're not being managed well this year. And it sucks to say that about a team being managed by Carlo, because you know how much love I have for Carlo. But This PSG team, especially since January, has done nothing but handle business against Premier League teams, especially in the Champions League. Because their first set of games in the Champions League, in the knockout round, was Liverpool. And you said it yourself. You said it yourself. I don't agree with this statement, but you said it. PSG controlled the game both times. If you look at the stats and you look at those things, I don't necessarily think that was true. But they went out and they beat Liverpool. And then they go out and then they beat Aston Villa. And I think Aston Villa provide more tactical depth because they're healthy, because they have all of their players than Arsenal.
Where are you?
Arsenal's
But I'm gonna refer you back to the Champions League. Where are you seeing that Aston Villa are this sound team tactically? Because just even looking at, they only have a 5-goal difference. They have a 5-goal difference.
What does that
compared
matter?
to Arsenal as a 34-goal difference.
That matter?
It matters. It matters when we're talking about a tactical,
Aston Villa aren't hurt. That's what
sound
matters.
Team.
Aston Villa is healthy. They can play their full tactic. They can play their full ideology. They can have depth and layers and levels to their ideas and what they're doing because they're not missing. Like, dude,
Arsenal
can't play their defensive ideology because, well, Gabriel is hurt. You can't play the same way with Saliba and Kivior that you do with Saliba and Gabriel because now set pieces aren't working for Arsenal. So again, tactically, they have had to dumb down what they do.
I feel like they're much more than just the set pieces, man.
I'm just giving you an example, Kevin. I need you to listen.
I get it.
Though, they can't attack. They don't have Kai Havertz or Gabriel Jesus. So their striking ability, their goal scoring ability goes away. So they have to adapt and simplify tactically. That's what I'm saying. A full-blown Arsenal with Gabriel and Saliba and Timber and Calafiori and the three guys in the midfield with Jorginho and with Odegaard and with Rice and Saka and Martinelli and Havertz. That team plays completely different to than what we're seeing now. And what I'm saying, and the reason that you're saying that, is you have to simplify your tactics.
But what about
and that's
you're
why
not
Villa
putting
were
into
able
you're
to
not
do what
putting
they
into
did
consideration
against PSG.
But you're not putting into consideration a lot of tactical innovation that's gone into this team. Look at where Marino is at now.
That's not tactical innovation.
It is.
That is desperation.
You're utilizing a player that doesn't play in this position, and he has made him play into this position, and he's made him play very, very well.
Yes. But
now another thing that
simplified the
another revelation in this team is Nwaneri and Nwaneri. He has been a very good replacement for Saka. And not to say Saka's back already.
Totally. But now you're replacing a winger with a midfielder. Nwaneri's future is as a 10,
on top of this,
not as a winger.
You've got Martinelli kind of doing something similar to what Rafinha's doing in Barcelona.
Again,
he's making those runs in
totally,
and he's doing it very, very, very well. And when you look at the counterattacks, they know how to counter very well.
Kevin, what I'm saying is that isn't what Arsenal have been. That's not what Arsenal have been over the last 3 years.
That's the part that's exciting about them is the fact that
they're so new in this ideology that the tactics are simple.
But it's
the
working.
way that they're attacking teams isn't complex.
It's working.
It's working against teams.
It's working against bigger teams.
No, it's not.
It's working against bigger teams.
Who?
Yes, it is.
Against
it
who?
worked very well. It worked very well against Real Madrid.
Madrid, we know that Real Madrid doesn't have a defense. We have one defender playing in that back three, in that back four. One starter. Like, it's a completely different game if it's Militao, if it's Mendy, if it's, Dani Carvajal. Like, it's a completely different defense. Let's not act like Real Madrid have been a really good team this year. They haven't. This season, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year in the podcast, that this season is a failure if you can't go and win the Champions League and La Liga. That's what this season is for Real Madrid. An abject failure. This is why Carlo is going to lose his job in the weekend. Why he's going to go and manage his last game as a club manager and then go on to Brazil is because this season has been an abject failure. That's what it is. We're not up to snuff. We're not playing to the levels or the standards of the best club in the world, of the best club in Spain, of a top contender, because that's not what we are this year. So let's not kid ourselves on that aspect of it. I'm not trying to take away what Arsenal have done. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the reason you can't compare this game to any of the other previous games is because Arsenal have not faced a team that is this high-flying, this fluid, and this has this level of attacking yet. They haven't faced
I
a
think
single
you are
team.
I think you are way you're like and don't get me wrong, I love Luis Enrique and I love what he's doing with PSG. I think PSG are playing some of the best football this year. And I don't disagree that they're going to come in as favorites for this game. And I don't disagree that Arsenal haven't technically faced a side as good as PSG. But I do feel like they're against any team, they've been very sound defensively. And I think that even without I mean, obviously Gabriel gives them a lot. And they're not going to have Gabriel. I don't disagree with you there either. But I do feel like the way that they're playing has suited them very well in the last few matches.
Has it? Explain Crystal Palace.
Against smaller teams, that's where I was going to get to. Against smaller teams, it's different. You can't play like that against smaller teams.
Explain
You have to
Brentford.
play again against smaller teams.
Explain
it's not
Everton.
the same thing because they're not good at taking at heading on a low. They're not good against a low block. But PSG aren't going to use a low block. They're going to go high.
But that's
and
not
I think
what that's not what
Arsenal
these teams
thrive
do.
very well against a team that plays
Crystal
higher
Palace
up
don't play
the
with a low
pitch.
block.
Bro, they played against they played with a low block against Arsenal. I'm just look at the stats in general.
No,
I mean,
that doesn't mean that they played with a low block. Crystal Palace is not a team that plays with a low block. I would give
but you know what I'm
Brentford
saying?
or
They're
Everton,
a smaller
totally.
team. It doesn't matter. They're a smaller team, so they're gonna naturally take away what Arsenal are thriving from the most, which is defense.
But what I'm saying is exactly. They defend well. But one of the biggest things that helps them defend is controlling the ball and having the ball. Regardless of what we want to talk about them, there's a reason Arteta is Pep
I
Jr.
disagree. I disagree.
Dude, they're a possession
I
side.
disagree
They wanna have
wholeheartedly.
possession.
Even against, and if you go back, even against City this season, they beat them 5-1. And I guarantee you they didn't have the ball in any moment of that game. Or at least not as much as City would. And I'm not saying that they faced a great City side because obviously it's the same deal with City. They're not a big side.
Why are we
But I'm
moving
saying,
the goalpost?
but I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm just giving you an example of what makes my argument valid, and that's it. And I'm not saying that you can't have an opinion about Arsenal and saying that like it's not valid. But I'm saying this is why I feel like Arsenal are good defensively, and why I think that they can stop a team like PSG. I think that they can.
I'm not saying that they can't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that
And I'm saying
there is no example of PSG. There is no example this year of Arsenal facing a team like PSG. There's not a singular example. This is going to be a brand new challenge for Arsenal. There are examples.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
There are examples of PSG, however,
I don't
facing
disagree
a
with that.
team like Arsenal. I
don't disagree with that.
That's
But I do
true.
feel that Arsenal, and I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier because I don't want you to think that
Because,
I'm saying, oh, Arsenal got this in the bag. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that that's what you're saying.
Right. My thing is, I feel like Arsenal can beat PSG defensively.
No. I'm not even saying that PSG are going to win. Well, that's not even the point that I'm arguing. What I'm trying to say is that this game is so incredibly close. Because you have a team that is struggling to score but is excelling defensively versus a team that I don't think is struggling defensively. So a lot of the things that Arsenal
100%.
really took advantage of, because let's not pretend Manchester City and Real Madrid are having very similar seasons in terms of we just can't defend this year. Devastating injuries to the back line, and the difference is that City actually went out in the summer and bought two defensemen. In the winter and bought two defensemen, and Real Madrid did nothing. We're both teams that are struggling to get offense going, even though we have
yet somehow City are still having a worse season than you guys.
No, absolutely.
Because at least you guys are still fighting for La Liga. You guys are still fighting for competition. City's not really fighting for any. Are they still in any competition other than?
No, they're just their season is for Europe. They're trying to get
They're done.
Champions League football.
They're trying to
They're
get
in
Champions
third
League
right
football.
now.
And so
And they'll get it. They'll get it. They're in third. I think that they are well secured
they'll
in
get
third,
it.
and they're playing
they'll get it.
really, really well. There's an opportunity
They're
for
starting
them to even
to
catch
play really,
Arsenal.
really well.
Like, they can catch Arsenal if Arsenal keep dropping points, if we're being
Yeah,
honest.
if Arsenal keep dropping points, it's 6 points is a lot. I don't know if Arsenal will drop that many points in.
I'm not saying that they
4
will.
games.
I'm just saying.
Right. I get
there's
what you're saying.
Mathematically, there is still a possibility.
Yeah. There's
is what
still
I
a
was saying.
possibility.
But what I'm saying ultimately is PSG have faced a team, and they've lost to a team like this, and this is why I find it so intriguing. Now,
Oh, and that's
have to be
another
very
argument.
clear.
Oh,
This
has
is before
PSG even
January.
faced a side that good?
yes, Atletico Madrid.
Come on, man.
Atletico
You're
Madrid
telling
are
me
way
Atletico
better
Madrid,
defensively than
bro?
Arsenal.
Oh,
Dude, they're the best
stop it.
defensive team in Europe. Go
Stop
look
it,
up the
bro.
stats. Don't start with
I'm
that.
going
Go
to.
look
I'm
up the
going-
stats.
I'm
Atletico
going
are the
to
best
right
defensive
now.
team in Europe.
I'm gonna look at La Liga stats right now.
Go look it up.
Right
They're
now.
the best
I'm gonna
defensive
look
team
it
in
up.
Europe.
I'm gonna look it up because Arsenal have conceded 29 goals, I think, in this season. Let me look at Atletico Madrid.
Go ahead.
27, 2 goals. It's a 2-goal difference.
It's still more goals.
And wait, before you go into that, they still don't have the goal difference that Arsenal have.
They're
So
not as good as
Arsenal
Arsenal. They're not as good as
are
Arsenal
just about
offensively.
as good.
No.
Are just about as good defensively because that's a 2-goal.
Totally. That dude, you
They've
asked
got
the question.
5 more goals than Atletico Madrid.
You asked the
So
question.
when
I
we're
gave you the
talking
answer.
about-
Why are you fighting with me? You
I'm
just
not
said, have
fighting.
they faced a team that's as good as Arsenal defensively?
But
yes,
I would
they
not
faced a
argue
team
that
is
Atletico
better
Madrid
than
are as
Arsenal
good as
defensively.
Arsenal. They're not.
They're
They're
better
not.
than Arsenal
Oh my god!
defensively.
2 goals. You're gonna argue with me over
Listen.
2 goals. 2 goals.
Listen,
If it was
yes.
5 goals at least, I would be like, okay.
They're
but
better
2
than
goals,
them
bro.
dude,
2
they're
goals.
better in the center back
You're
positions.
gonna be
They're-
serious about 2 goals.
Dude,
2
they're
goals.
better defensively. They're better
I mean,
defensively.
2 goals, and
They're
okay,
better
this is-
defensively.
This is their okay. Let's look at the Champions League. The stats at the Champions League, okay, because that matters as well.
It's 2
So let's
goals
see.
with
We
the
got
game in
Atletico
hand. It's 2 goals with the
Atletico
game
Madrid.
in hand.
Atletico Madrid conceded 12 goals in the Champions League compared to Arsenal's 3 goals, and you're gonna tell me they're more sound defensively?
They are.
Bro, they're not. No, they're
They
not.
absolutely
It's
are.
very clear here. And if it was,
Atletico actually
and if it
played
was, and if
teams
it
in
was,
the
if we were
Champions
talking
League.
about, if we were talking about like one or this is a very
This is the best part about the
this
narrative
is a
changing.
very significant
Going into that
point
Real
right
Madrid
here.
game versus Atletico, everybody and their mother was talking about how Atletico Madrid were the best defensive team in
not.
Europe. And a
They're- but
few
they're
weeks
not, and
later,
it's shown right
few
here.
weeks later, I bring up that same point. I'm going to get argued off of the podcast.
I'm
No,
not- I'm
they
not
are.
arguing.
Dude, 2 goals, 1 goal, 0 goals. It doesn't matter. They are just as
because
good,
they play
if
a very
not better
defensive
defensively.
just because they play a very defensive philosophy does not make them better defensively.
Yes.
If anything,
Oh,
a
what?
team, if
How
anything,
does that make sense?
because
Make that
they're
make
still
sense.
conceding
a team
goals.
That plays
A
defense,
team that was good defensively would not be conceding 12 goals in one to compare to a team that conceded 3. That's the argument there. That's the biggest thing right there. And that's where I'm going to leave that at because there's no other explanation. If you're telling me they have the best defense, like I would totally agree with you if we were talking about Inter right now. They conceded 1 goal. 1 goal.
in the
And if we
league
look at
phase.
Inter in their league-
league phase. Who cares about the
Okay.
league phase?
And if
The-
we look
the
at
statistics
okay,
still
if we
show
look
that
at the
Atletico
playoffs,
Madrid
it's
are one of,
even
we're getting
worse.
sidetracked here. Atletico Madrid, objectively, whether you believe it or not, are one of the best defensive teams in Europe. That's what they are. If you ask anybody, guys, in the
Okay,
comments,
they're
get down in the
one of-
comments
and
section
I'm not
below.
saying that
Are
they're- I'm not
Atletico
saying
Madrid
they're-
one of the best
Whoa,
defensive
whoa,
teams
wait,
in
don't
Europe?
move the
Yes,
goalposts. I'm
yes,
not
they
saying
are.
that they're one of the best. I'm not saying that they're not one of the best defensive teams in Europe, but I'm saying if we're talking who's better defensively, it's Arsenal. And
They're
it's
not.
clearly-
That's besides
it's
the
shown
point.
right here.
They're not. Let's keep
Shown
going.
right here.
PSG have faced a team that are as least, so that we can get through this, are at least as good as Arsenal defensively. They're better than Arsenal defensively. We've seen that this year in the way that they play. They are a better team defensively. All of the underlying numbers take that, and if you take away just a couple of games from Arsenal and you take a couple of games from Atletico Madrid, those numbers pop out even more because you have the anomaly of that game in October where Benfica dropped 4 on Atletico. That's an anomaly. That doesn't happen to them very, very often, if at all. Besides the point, PSG have faced the team
Another
before
thing,
January.
and then
we have to
wait,
remember.
one more thing. Arsenal already faced PSG back in October and beat them 2-0.
In a friendly?
No, I'm the Champions League, bro. In the league phase, they beat them 2-0 already.
Yeah, in October.
Already played them.
Can I finish my
Okay.
point? I need to finish my point.
That makes your other argument invaluable.
No, it doesn't.
That makes your other argument invaluable.
Okay. Does
Talking
it?
about how
Okay.
PSG faced
Was
Atletico
Kvaratskhelia
Madrid.
on that PSG team? Was Kvaratskhelia on that PSG team?
Okay, they weren't.
What was
they weren't on
Havertz
that
playing for
PSG.
Arsenal? What about Gabriel? Was Gabriel playing for Arsenal? What about Calafiori? Was Calafiori playing for Arsenal? Yeah. They had their full squad. PSG was still missing the key piece that unlocked them. We literally talked about this.
You know who Arsenal didn't have?
Who?
Odegaard.
Who?
Odegaard.
Okay. So?
Their most important. Okay.
No.
So
No. He's not their most important player.
He's their
Saka
most important midfielder.
No, Saka
Oh,
is.
God. Are you serious?
Saka's
They
their most
literally
important
did
player.
fine without Saka. Saka was injured for a long time, and they did
bottled
fine
the league.
Oh
they
my
were
God,
fine
man.
without him.
But they didn't.
They were
They
fine
did
without
fine.
him. They bottled
did
the
fine.
league because he missed time. Their goal scoring threat went through the floor when he missed time. They stopped scoring goals entirely. And that was even with Nwaneri being a great revelation. They weren't able to score goals. Saka, you can ask any Arsenal fan. Their most important player is Saka. Saka provides all of the creativity, all of the everything. He's their Yamal.
That's
Without
fine.
Yamal, you guys can't
That's
create.
fine, but Odegaard's like our Pedri.
Totally, but you can replace Odegaard and you can replace Pedri in that midfield.
We
you
could not
can't win games
Bro,
without Yamal.
Any Barcelona fan would say the same thing. You cannot replace Pedri in that midfield role.
Dude,
you
the
can't do it.
statistics point
It's not
out
the same
you
thing.
guys can't
You can't have
win
Frankie De
games
Jong
or
and
score
Gavi
goals.
playing at the same time. It's not the same thing.
Dude, it is literally as simple. If you just look up the stats of what your team does when Yamal is on the field, when he's not on the field, it's the same
I
exact
could also look at the
thing.
stat of when Pedri's on the field and when he's not on the field.
And the numbers aren't that different.
They're not-
Kevin,
they're-
I'm telling you, when the
Bro.
podcast is over, go and look these deep statistics up. Literally,
to, man.
the
Look,
team,
listen,
your team
I have
cannot
been-
score when Yamal's not on the field. Saka is that for Arsenal. So, and here's the thing. Kvaratskhelia is that for PSG. Kvaratskhelia coming in and being on the other side of Dembele.
Dembele is that for
Dembele is their Rafinha. Dembele is scoring all the goals, and he's having a fantastic season. But, dude, pay attention. When did Dembele become Dembele? When did we start talking about him being one of the best forwards this year? When did that happen? Pay attention, because it wasn't in October. It wasn't in November. It wasn't in December. It was in January. After Kvaratskhelia came in. Kvaratskhelia is the most important player to PSG. He opens up that offense entirely. Entirely. Go look at the record. PSG, most of Dembele's goals this year came after January. It was him and Kylian Mbappe running away with the goals since January. That's the point. You can't compare those two teams because this is a almost full-strength Arsenal that is missing just Odegaard, which isn't that big of a piece when you look at their underlying numbers. Very big piece, totally. Whereas it would be different if Saka was missing. But that's the thing. It's not just Saka. Saka's going to be there. Odegaard's going to be there. Fine. But Gabriel's not going to be there. That's a huge piece. Calafiori's not going to be there. That's a huge piece. That defense is not going to be as sound as it was before. Jurrien Timber has a knock. And here's the thing with Timber, and I want to give him his flowers. Dude, in 2 or 3 years, we might be talking about Timber as one of the best right backs in the world. I don't think he's there yet, but in 2 or 3 years, watch out, we might have that conversation. Whereas in PSG have found the missing piece. It's one of the compliments that I gave them. That's the beauty of what this semifinal is going to be, is this free-flowing PSG versus this team that is hurt but still so defensively sound, who is struggling to create opportunities to get goals. Who's going to win out in that? And it's two guys that you could argue come from a Pep Guardiola coaching tree but ended up completely different. because Luis Enrique directly precedes Pep Guardiola at Barcelona. If I'm stand corrected, right? Isn't he the manager that came right after Pep? Didn't he
Not
inherit
right
Pep's
after
team?
Pep.
Who
No,
came between them?
no. This Argentine coach named Tata Martino.
But he wasn't there for long. It was a year or two.
He was there for a year, and then Luis Enrique came in.
So he basically inherited Pep's team and played a very similar style. He didn't play the false nine because he went and got
I wouldn't say he played
Luis
a similar
Suarez.
style, but
He
it
did.
was different. It was different, but it was under the same kind
It
of
wasn't all that
philosophy.
different. It's like saying that Pep has evolved tactically. He didn't. He's just changed where
I
players
mean,
go.
like I said, it's under the same philosophy. I wouldn't say it's the same thing
And
because they're
also,
different players. They
I
are
just
different
I just
squads.
looked at this because my mic was in the way. They didn't even have Dembele in that game. Dude, it was Due, Barcola, and Lee playing in that game. Dembele didn't even play. He was hurt. Bro, that's not even besides the point. That is going to be such a fun semifinal. And like, as someone who wants both of those teams to lose, I don't know what I want. Because I don't like PSG. I don't like what oil money is doing to football. And like, that's what I think PSG kind of inhabits and embodies. And I don't like teams being able to just throw $250 million offers without really having earned it. But moving on to the other side of it, chaos versus control in Barcelona versus Inter. I want to know your thoughts going into this game because Inter have been probably the best managed team, the best coached team in Europe the last 2 or 3 years. And they have just fallen short of the Champions Leagues that they've needed. They're barely not getting there. And now they're coming up against the Barcelona team that is not playing like any other Barcelona team we've seen in the last 20 years. They have embodied this idea of Route 1. They are flying. They are inviting pressure. They are playing with that high line. If you want to come over the top, try it because we've got fast athletic defenders. We've got fast athletic forwards. And we've got players in the midfield that laugh in the face of pressure. We're going to just outrun you. That's what it's just chaos embodiment. How does Barcelona approach this game with a team that is so tactically sound? They're not going to fall into that chaos. They're not going to fall into that trap. How does Barcelona go about opening this team up and getting the goals that we know Barcelona can score against teams that do fall into that trap? How do you go out there and do that against this team?
Well, look, I don't disagree with you that Inter are very, very sound tactically. They're they're a team that definitely has a lot to give. And when we talk about them offensively, one thing I want to say is it's going to be huge the fact that they'll be missing Turam.
Yeah.
Because I think Turam is very big for their counters and their
He can
crosses
still
in the
come back,
box.
maybe.
Maybe in the second leg, but I mean, there's a lot to see in this Inter side, and for Barcelona, it's gonna have to just be attack, 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 man. It's just gonna have to be a game where we just put it all on the table and risk as much as we. I think that the biggest thing here for us is going to be risk, which I think that even though when you risk, especially against this Inter side, you could potentially concede a lot. But I think that that's the only way we're going to be able to break this team defensively is just risking high line, attack. That's the only way. It could also lose us the game. I'm not blind of that. It could lose us the game, but at the same time, I think that it's the only way we can somehow break Inter because, yeah, Inter are very good team tactically. There's not going to be any room for error like we did against Borussia Dortmund in the second leg, man. And that was a very big game of where I am seeing a lot of concerns on my team's side. Because as much as like the euphoria is coming in, a lot of media is talking about the team and a lot of people are saying we're going to win, all 3 trophies and this and that. And there's a lot still to play, and I don't want that to get into my team's head. So I want to be realistic. If there's any Barcelona fans watching, especially, I want to set realistic expectations. This is going to be one of the hardest games, if not the hardest for us, because of the team that we're playing. So if we get past, I think this will even be harder than the final, depending on who we face in the final, because it's just Inter are a very, very good team tactically, like you said, and it's going to be very hard to break them without the risk. But when you risk, and that's just what this game is going to have to be. We're going to have to put in a lot of work to try to break them down. And the biggest thing where I'm a little bit upset about this game, Inter in the last two, I don't know why this is, but Inter in the last two knockout stages had the second game at home, and I don't understand why in this one they also have the second game at home, where in the last one we didn't have the second game at home, and now we have the second game away, and that worries me.
Playing away is always going to be a challenge.
But the fact that the second leg, in the second leg, though, I wouldn't mind playing this team away if it was in the first leg. But why is it that in the last two if somebody can explain this to me, because I don't understand why in the last two knockout rounds have we played the second leg away? We played the second leg away. The only time we played it was in the first game in the round of 16. Then in the quarterfinals, we played the second game away. And now in the semifinals, we're playing the second game away. Why? Why is that? Because it's going to be very difficult in the second leg. A lot is going to fall on the first leg and how we conduct ourselves and how many goals we score. If we can get a good win in the first leg, it's going to be huge. But coming into the second leg away on a draw, man, that is just a lot is going to be at stake in the first leg. And that's what worries me about Barcelona right now. That's what worries me about this semifinal. I don't understand why. Inter, both of their last knockout rounds, they had the second match at home. I don't understand where that's coming from. Why is it that this match should have been us the second leg at home? It doesn't make any sense to me. So it's very, very tough to draw.
It's literally random. It's a flip of a coin. You just got unlucky. Twice. It was held on the 21st of February to see the order of the semifinal leg. Literally, I looked it up. It's just random.
Well, anyway, I mean, I don't want to complain. I don't want to use this as any sort of excuse. But my point with all of this is the fact that, like, everything's going to fall in the first leg, because in the second leg, it's going to be a big mountain to climb.
It's not easy to go to the San Siro.
We have to come out of the first leg winning. That's the only way we're going to get past the semifinal.
I want to give you guys credit. It's not easy to go to Barca either. Like, look, the Olympic Stadium hasn't been all that great.
Montjuic.
Right, yeah. It hasn't been all that great. I don't think you guys are playing there. Is it?
Yeah, no, we're playing in Montjuic.
Still?
We're still not playing the Spotify.
No, I know you're not.
They just started putting grass. They just started putting grass in the Spotify Camp Nou.
Oh yeah,
They're just started putting grass. They're still. Next season we're not going to see the Spotify Camp Nou until next season.
Yeah, I know that.
I'm excited for it.
I thought you guys had to play. I remember reading somewhere that there was a thing where the stadium was, because you guys were supposed to be out. This besides the point. It's not easy going to play at Barcelona either. Like, the fans are going to be there in force, in number. It's not easy going there either.
But I think Inter has the advantage that this is their first. That this will be the first leg.
No, I agree. No, totally. And then you got to go to the San Siro with whatever the result is. Like, if the result ends up 0-0 or 1-1, and you got to go to the San Siro, good luck. Good luck, my friend. You got to go to the San Siro with a win.
I agree.
You got to go to the San Siro with a win.
100%.
Up on the aggregate score. I think the honest thing, the fact that you didn't even bring this up, which I think is way more important, and this is the biggest concern that I would have if I was a Barcelona fan, and I'm not, so I'm happy that this is happening. That's the wrong word, because I never wish injury on any player. Like, I want every player to be healthy forever. I hate when seeing players go down. I want to see the best players. But I think the fact that you didn't even talk about the fact that Lewandowski's not going to play.
I'm not worried about
it. I'm
not worried about it.
And when you have to play a team that is so tactically sound and that's so defensively stout, like, I'm sorry, Lewandowski at 37 is still, I would say he's the second best striker in the world.
I think Balde will be back.
Early May is what it's being said. So he's not going to be there for the first leg.
Oh.
They might get there for the second leg,
listen,
but for the first leg, they're both slated, according to
going-
FootMob, they're both slated to miss that game. And so, to me,
Yeah.
the thing that I look at and I go, we know how important Lamine Yamal is. We know the speed that Rafinha provides. We know how important that midfield trio, when it's fully healthy and it's fully operating, of like De Jong and Pedri and whoever it is that you decide to put at the 10. If you had to guess, who's starting at the 10?
Fermin will start
right?
at the 10.
When all of that is
Fermin or
working,
Olmo, but Olmo's been in and out. We
I don't
we
want to
don't
say
know about Olmo.
your team, whatever. When all of that is working, it all comes together and culminates. And the cherry on top that I think makes that combo really hit home the way that you guys have been hitting home. Because, like, let's be honest, you guys have been scoring in bundles. You don't score one goal. You score 2 or 3. And I think a thing that facilitates that is just how good Lewandowski is off the ball. And as much as you might like Ferran Torres or the other guys who might play as a striker for you, I don't think that any of those guys provide that level of physicality, that level of off-ball knowledge. And if I'm a Barcelona fan, that's where I'm going to struggle. That's where I'm going to be worried. And then moving to Inter, because I don't want to spend the whole time talking about Barcelona.
Right.
Inter, let's not act like they're fully healthy going into this game either. They're
Right.
not. Like you mentioned before, Thuram's more than likely going to miss this first leg. Denzel Dumfries is more than likely going to miss this first leg. And so one of the things that we've seen this year work so well is the partnership of Lisandro Martinez, who has been secretly in Italy being one of the best, most clinical finishers in Europe. He is so freaking good. So freaking good as a finisher. Like, he's just so smart. That's besides the point. Him losing his strike partner in Thuram, that's a big deal. That's a very, very big deal. Because now they're going to have to play 30-year-old Joaquin Correa. Now they're going to have to play 32-year-old Mehdi Taremi. And none of those guys provide the strength, the physicality, the finishing, the passing that Thuram provides. And so I'm so excited about this game because it, like you said, I think Barcelona are going to go into this game pursuing risk, trying to find ways to open up this Barcelona, this Inter Milan team. And I think that Inter aren't going to bite. If I'm going to predict this game right now, if I had to predict this game right now, do you know what I legitimately think this game is going to end after 2 legs? I think it ends 0-0. I legitimately believe that you guys aren't going to find a way to open them up and score goals. And I also think that even with all of the tactical ingenuity and structure that they play in, they're not going to be able to get in behind and matriculate the ball down the field and get the ball in the back of your net. This is going to be the game that you have to tune into if you are a lover of football in a deep, deep tactical sense. If you're just a fan of high-flying, energetic, legs and balls and everything flying everywhere, watch that other semifinal game. That's exactly what that's going to be. Saka's pace, Dembele's pace, Kvaratskhelia pace, Martinelli's pace. Like, it's speed incarnate. They all got speed. But Barcelona versus Inter, this is the matchup that I have been wanting all year long. Every episode we've talked about the Champions League, I've talked about Inter versus Barca being one of the best games that's going to happen this year. And I am so freaking excited that we finally get to see it. Closing
Yeah, me
thoughts
too.
before we
Me
send
too.
it off to the
Um,
comment section.
Man, I mean, I feel like Barcelona. I feel like there's going to be some sort of tactical shift with Lewandowski gone. It's either going to be Ferran Torres. I think that I think I think we just saw a little bit of more rotations within the squad, so they're going to try to find. I think Ansu Fati's starting to kind of make his
Played
mark in the
a
team a
good
little bit.
game.
Played a good game, but it's a little too soon. He hasn't played in a long time. I don't
Totally.
know if this is the game that you want to put him in
No, you
of
can't,
this
right?
magnitude. But I feel like there's going to be some sort of tactical shift with Lewandowski being gone. And it's either going to be we're going to rely on Ferran Torres' speed and Rafinha and just try to risk, or there's going to be, like I said, just a tactical shift in how we approach that striker role. And that's just it. I think that we can win this game. Does this game? Do I feel like this is the hardest game of the season? Yes. Do I think that that Inter are a beatable team and that can happen? Yes.
Totally.
So we'll just have to wait. Just have to
Guys,
wait. And as far as Arsenal PSG, same thing. It's a tough game, but it's doable.
guys, the Final Four is going to be super exciting. But stick around. Hit the subscribe button on your way out. Hit the like button if you like the content, because we are going to start diving into the summer transfer window, all the rumors. How are we going to make these teams better? Liverpool, making them better on the way. Real Madrid, how can we fix Real Madrid with all of this Xabi Alonso rumors? What is his team going to look like? Barcelona summer plans. Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, Manchester City, the whole nine. If there's a team that you want us to take a deep dive into
The
what
whole
we think
shebang.
is going to make them better, get in the comment section below and let us know all of that stuff. That is my good friend Kevin. My name is Tigo. This is the Tactical Foul podcast. I am going to go drink some NyQuil and go to sleep. Let us know. Have a good one, guys.
Hope you get better, my friend.
Thank you.